Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously profound journey into the very architecture of reality, pulling directly from the ancient wisdom of the Talmud Eser Sefirot. I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Picture this vast, completely non-physical spiritual system called Kadmon. It's this majestic, cosmic structure, and it's built entirely upon what we call the first contraction.
Right, exactly. But then, and this is where it gets absolutely fascinating, as we watch this cosmic blueprint unfold, a second, inner contraction rises up. It's almost like this hidden boundary line moving right up into the very middle of the degree. So today, we're going to unpack exactly what that shifting boundary means for, well, our entire existence.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to take this step by step so we don't get lost in the weeds because these mechanics are dense. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll cover Kadmon and Tzimtzum Aleph. Second, we'll look at the big shift, Tzimtzum Bet. Third, the Parsa firewall. Fourth, the exhaustive mechanics of how the light and vessels actually interact. And finally, number 5, we'll see how all of this results in the 4 worlds.
All right, Section 1. Kadmon and Tzimtzum Aleph, the primordial blueprint.
So to really get this, we have to go back to before any worlds even existed. The infinite light actually restricted itself to create a sort of conceptual space for existence to happen. In this first contraction, which is called Tzimtzum Aleph, the light's endpoint, the nekudat hasiyum, was placed at the very, very bottom. This lowest stage is called Malchut.
Exactly. The line of infinite light, the kav, comes shining down and it doesn't stop until it hits Malchut. The very first system built on this rule is Kadmon. And what's wild is that the upper 9 Sefirot are completely clear of any restriction at this point. The light just travels freely all the way down until it hits Malchut, which acts as that ultimate rock-solid boundary.
Moving to Section 2, the paradigm shift, introducing Tzimtzum Bet.
Now, as that light kept expanding downward, a massive cosmic shift had to happen. Why? So the lower vessels wouldn't shatter under the intensity. And this brilliantly illustrates that shift. In Tzimtzum Aleph, the boundary is firmly anchored at the bottom, right at Malchut, so those upper 9 Sefirot were pristine. But then, Tzimtzum Bet happens, and the boundary point literally rises up into the middle of the system. Specifically, it jumps up into the level of Binah.
Yeah, let's really define this ascent. In the source, it's called Aliyat Malchut leBinah. Because Malchut, which is the restricting force, remember, rises up into Binah, it essentially takes a spiritual degree and just slices it in half. Now, Binah of the body is called Tiferet, specifically the Chazeh, or the chest area. When that restriction moves up to the chest, everything below it, so that's the lower half of Tiferet, Netzar Chad, Yesod, and the original Malchut, they are suddenly completely emptied of direct light. They are totally separated from that upper illumination.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Parsa firewall, a metaphysical boundary.
This slicing in half creates an immediate, severe consequence, the Parsa. It's a mechitza, which means a separating boundary. Our source explicitly defines the Parsa as this new boundary created by Tzimtzum Bet right at the level of the chest. And its entire job is to prevent the direct, raw light of the highest world, Atzilut, from just crashing down into the lower systems.
Right, so above this Parsa, the infinite light can still shine in all its glory. But below it, the direct light is entirely blocked. Only a carefully diluted, generated light, what's called an Ohr Hozer, can actually pass through that boundary.
Okay, quick pause here. We must deliver a really critical warning. When we use terms like chest or ascent or curtain, please, whatever you do, do not imagine physical space.
Yes, absolutely crucial point. Do not imagine bodily movement or some literal curtain hanging out in outer space. That's not what this is. These are strict laws of spiritual reception. It's about affinity of form and states of being. The Parsa is a metaphysical law that dictates exactly what quality of vessel is allowed to receive what quality of light. Period.
You know, to help grasp this on a deeper level, let's use a modern cosmic engineering analogy. Think of Tzimtzum Aleph as the code defining the original hardware's receiver endpoint. It's the base infrastructure of reality.
Oh, I love this analogy. Right. So then Tzimtzum Bet comes in as this major operating system update that totally repartitions the architecture right at the Binah directory. And the Parsa? Well, the Parsa is a strict firewall protocol. It's there to protect Atzilut, which functions like the ultimate cosmic server, holding the infinite source code. The firewall blocks raw, unencrypted downstream data from flooding in and just completely crashing the uncorrected lower networks.
And hey, if we want a video game version for the younger learners, or let's be honest, the gamers out there, Tzimtzum Aleph is basically the base physics engine of the game's first world. You can walk everywhere freely, no blocked areas. Exactly, but then Tzimtzum Bet happens. It takes the main boundary gate and moves it way upward, right into the middle of the map. So now the lower zones are completely locked. They become these locked-out levels that the hero literally cannot enter until they go grind and gain the specific, corrected spiritual access keys.
All right, Section 4, Exhaustive Mechanics, How Light Builds Worlds. Let's really move to the core of this and see how this builds.
So the source text lays out a very exact, specific sequence for how this happens. First, you have Hitpashtut. This is where the direct light simply expands downward.
Right, and second, that expanding light hits the Masach, the restraining screen. Now, because the vessel absolutely refuses to receive the light selfishly, it effectively strikes the light, bouncing it back up. This striking action is called Zivug Dehaka.
And that strike creates reflected light, or Ohr Hozer, which is actually what forms the vessel that can hold the light purely. Finally, when the screen loses its strength to maintain this pure intention, the light has to depart. And this departure is called Histalkut.
But here's the beautiful part. When that Histalkut happens and the light departs, it doesn't leave the Kli, the vessel, completely empty. Not at all. It leaves behind Reshimot.
Yeah, Reshimot are these lingering spiritual impressions. Think of it like residual source code, or a cosmic memory of the light that was just there a moment ago. It acts as the blueprint for the very next stage of development.
Oh, and as a quick aside, I should clearly state, any further mechanisms of, say, color shifts here, that is not explicit in the source we are studying today. We're sticking strictly to the mechanics laid out in the text. Moving to our final part, Section 5, the four worlds, Atzilut, Beriah, Yetzirah, Asiyah. So this newly restricted architecture we've been talking about, this is what actually creates our reality, which is often abbreviated as ABY. Because the restriction moved up to the chest in the Partsuf of Nekadort de Sag, the world of Atzilut remains pure. It sits entirely above the Parsa firewall, happily receiving that infinite light. But look what happens below the firewall. The emptied space from the lower half of Tiferet, that becomes the world of Beriah. The emptied space of Netzar Hod and Yesod, that becomes the world of Yetzirah. And the emptied space of the original Malchut becomes the world of Asiyah. These three lower worlds exist totally downstream, separated from the infinite source. So why does all of this matter? Why go through all this incredibly complex metaphysical engineering just to separate things out? Because, as crazy as it sounds, this severe restriction is ultimately an act of profound cosmic protection. The Parsa acts as a vital buffering system. Without it, the lower vessels in Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, and remember, that includes our reality down here, would literally be shattered by the raw intensity of the infinite light. The firewall ensures we only ever receive the exact amount of light, that Ohr Sheltalada, that we can safely process and correct. So if the very architecture of reality relies on restriction to prevent shattering, it begs a pretty profound question for us down here. What boundaries do you need to place in your own life to safely receive the light you are meant to hold?
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.